Hello, this is Anisha Rai, the editor of Identity. We are gathered here today in collaboration with IT Standard to discuss designing the future and paving the way for the next evolution in spaces and product design. As the design industry starts to move towards more sustainable and more like performance-driven solutions, I feel like designers are now facing like sort of a challenge when it comes to honoring functionality and also honoring, how do you push the boundaries of innovation when we try to do this. No? So on this panel today, I have an amazing series of panelists with me. Please introduce yourselves. Let's start with you.
Absolutely. I'm Pallavi Dean. I am the founder and creative director of Roar.
I'm Roberto Palomba. I am founder of Palomba Serafini in Milan.
And I'm Justin Wells, CEO and founder of Wells International.
Let's start with you, Pallavi. Like, why don't you tell us a little bit of how you integrate sustainable practices into your projects at this point in time?
Look, I think we have to stop greenwashing, right? Everybody just thinks sustainability is such a cool buzzword. So, oh yes, I had a sensor tap and that's how I got my LEED accreditation. I think we need to stop that. I think we need to think about it more from a ground roots kind of level, right? It is, what is the manufacturing process? What is the raw material that we're using within each of these products? When a designer like Roberto is designing, is he looking at the engineering based on how much wastage there is within the product? So I think we have to start at that ground level rather than later just putting a sensor tap and saying, hey, we've ticked that box. And I also think that we have to really have that, we talk a lot about in design about the narrative and the story, but if you have sustainability integrated within your product, that becomes your marketing story. And then you don't have to try so hard with the gimmicks and all that fluffy stuff outside.
Yeah. Roberto, what are the challenges that you have sometimes when it
I think that my generation was the one who destroyed the planet. It's true. But the former generation, they didn't make the disaster that our generation did, not yours, you're younger, but my generation really was the one who was pushing every boundary in destroying the nature. Island of plastic, of air, and so on. So I think we have no more time to do it, and it's a big responsibility that doesn't depend on the trend. So today perhaps we talk about sustainability. It's no interview that people is not asking me about sustainability, but it's not a trend, it's a necessity. If we want to breathe in the future, we need to stop. And on the other side, I see that the people, they seem interested into sustainability, but they are not. Because in front of a window where there is just a t-shirt, they go to buy it. To produce a t-shirt, we need 200 liters, a t-shirt, the most stupid t-shirt, we need 200 liters of drinkable water. And you all know how many t-shirts we do every day all over the world, and how many t-shirts we buy every day that we don't need. So it's not a matter of how we impose sustainability as a law, or if we expect the people really accept this like a topic. Okay, we lost any battle. So on one side we have to guarantee by law that our products are sustainable, that we produce in a sustainable way. So we need to do that on top of the society. Otherwise, the society is like babies. They'll in front of a toy, of a new toy, they're going to buy it for sure. They don't care if it's sustainable or not. Perhaps they see, okay, we can greenwash it, we can put the green coat, we can put some leaves of basilicum just to make a decoration, and say, oh yes, this is made in wood, but perhaps we cut a forest to make this product in wood. So we have to be, on one side we have to grow up a green consciousness, but it's going to be for the next generation. It's going to be not on our generation. So the next generation, we have to grow up in order they will pretend to a green, sustainable way of produce and so on. But it has to be done in a way that we don't think about. This is not a trend. It's something that is already guaranteed by law, and then we can have a sustainable planet. Right. But if you expect the society, the people do it, forget it. I'm too old to believe in fairy tales, and Santa Claus fortunately is not coming in December. It was my mother bringing me the toys.
And like when in your research process, we know we need to start laying the groundwork
Yes.
for this. So what have you discovered are some of the new innovative materials that you've come across that could be a potential solution or could be something that can make a difference, and you can start to pave the way for the others to follow?
Okay, let's start to say that I'm a criminal, okay? So, solve the problem. We start to have a sort of internal law in our studio. So we have 3 guidelines. So durability, this is very important. The terms of durability is a very important element because whatever is trendy, whatever is fashion, fashion fades, I was saying Coco Chanel, that was not so stupid. So when we design, we have to make something that is not just trendy or cool, but we have to try to give good values to the product we design, from one side. It's very difficult to say for an Italian, disassemblability, okay, disassemblable. So a product has to be disassemblable. So when it's not done in one material, you have to try to disassemble it, because if you can separate the different parts, then you go to create a product that is not sustainable. As an example, again, the t-shirt. I hate t-shirts. If you have a t-shirt, 19.9% in cotton, pure recyclable, but you have 0.1% of polyester, this t-shirt is not eco-friendly, because you can't separate the 0.1% of polyester from the cotton. So you can have also 99% of the t-shirt made in cotton, but you can't recycle it with the cotton, because you can separate this fiber, the 0.1% of polyester from the cotton. So the entire t-shirt is not friendly. So when we design, we have to do it in order that we can take, for example, we design a shower now for a standard made in aluminum that is 80% more or less already recycled. But we can separate the elements in order that one day we can take the aluminum and we can separate from the other elements in order that we can recycle the aluminum that is eternal life. And the last point is recyclability. For Italians, these kind of words are impossible. You can say for me.
Recyclability.
Well, I love you. I love you even.
I get it all the time, Roberto.
Not my wife, not your husband here, so perfect. So this is very important. But to do that, we have to know how we recycle. So it's not just using the materials, but also we have to know the way we recycle and where we recycle, because the trash can be the new gold mine for the future. So instead to dig from the nature, we can dig from the trash. But we have to know where they comes from. So traceability, again,
Big words, more buzzwords.
traceable material is very important, because if we know that this material comes from that traceability, wonderful. Okay, traceability. If you can trace the material we recycle, so we guarantee that this material is recycled. So, aluminium, metal, paper, wood, anything that fabrics. For example, now we are using in design. We are using the best part of cotton is recycled, cashmere recycled, wool recycled, and sometimes they come in from fashion. So we are using today what is the raw material is coming from fashion, recycled material coming from fashion. We are translated into fabrics for furnitures. So it's interesting the cycle of this material and trying to keep those materials always in the process of the production and create a way to recycle it, that it costs less than produce take it from the nature. This could be a way to keep it going. Of course, this is 0.1% of the thing we can do for our planet, but never forget that ocean is made by drops. So each and every one has a responsibility for his own drops, and together perhaps we can do a good job. Stop, I don't speak anymore. Promise.
Just wanted to tell us some of the sustainable initiatives.
Yeah, I think there's a few different ways to think about it. For us, we think about it in a material sense, but then we also think about another way of creating local jobs as well. Other ways to create a bit of a corporate sustainability or corporate social consciousness as well. So in our process, we have an internal vendor supplier ranking system. We took this on board like 3 years ago. It's taken us thousands of hours to develop. So when we meet amazing suppliers like Ideal Standard, etc., there's a whole scoring matrix that we do. It has a few different categories, custom to what we want to create in our global studio. One element, obviously, is sustainability. So that's a big part of it. But it also means that we're not a commercial business in terms of we just want everything green or sustainable in our library, in our specification. That is a key part. But there's other elements as well. So in a way, this is how we approach our supply chain. We look extensively all over the world. We look for a very artisanal and very bespoke items. That's the first thing. We want to work with material or suppliers or manufacturers that effectively aren't everywhere. We want to be unique. So we start that as an initial selecting process. And then we look at, I guess, the way we work with that particular supplier. Is it easy to get samples and have iterative conversations about modifications, customization, a big demand for us in hospitality. And of course, if we get to that level, that look, this company or this manufacturing is very good for us, then we have to look into the sustainability element. Okay, so what is their systems, what are their processes, what are their certifications, etc. So firstly, we do that in a selecting process. It's really important that we do that. So we say that to our clients, and we work with large governmental clients, some of the largest developers in the region and in different parts of the world. They want to hear that story. They want to know that that's something that's important to us. So firstly, that's part of the selecting process. And our team, they're on the road wherever they are. They have access to this. It's on a map. Then there's the part of, since the pandemic time, when it was difficult to get material moving around different parts of the world. There was bottlenecks. There were literally projects were getting severely delayed. So we were researching a lot about local manufacturing and local job creation. And in fact, what we see a lot of our RFPs and our contracts that come to us, that it's essential that we consider that speed and time, but also what can we do to support local places. So we're not looking at all major cities to source material. Sometimes it's amazing stories like not-for-profit organisations that are trying to get people back into the workforce, marginalised communities that are starting to build and make things. That's a good story for us because we believe we're helping to support that initiative. It's also very artisanal. It supports what we're trying to create, beautiful handmade items, etc. So we see sustainability not only in a sense of material and planet, but also how to get people back into a potential workforce who are marginalised, support communities, which obviously is a betterment of as a human that we're trying to support those endeavours as well. So we see it in two different ways. And then I guess ultimately, we look at technology. We're looking at 3D printing, ceramic materials at the moment for an exquisitely ultra-luxury resort that we're doing at the moment. But we wanted to look at things which have a more efficiency of manufacturing that are uniquely bespoke, one-offs, not done anywhere else. And so we tirelessly research into what other technologies can also support that thinking in terms of wastage or even manufacturing closer to the source. So they have this ability to create modularization, panelization, etc. And probably finally, some of our projects are in extremely remote locations, unbelievably so. Like we're doing things in Saudi, which is obviously a very big market at the moment. But some of those locations are on cliffs in the middle of nowhere. So we have to think at the earliest ideation, but the first little sketch of a pen and pencil. What is our approach? So we're thinking high level first before we get down to the detail. How are we going to get it there? And we look at all of the transport and the mobility infrastructure in the sense of sustainability as well. We can't just only think of materiality. How does it get built? How does it get disassembled as well in the event that it wants to have a re-lifing? So we actually think it is very much cradle to cradle kind of thinking as well. So there is, and our clients, commending some of our big developer clients, what they're thinking big picture. There's accreditations, there's those sorts of things in our RFPs. But actually, I think because of its remoteness, we need to create efficiency of construction. You can come up with the most beautiful, exquisite design, but if it's going to be extremely intensive to transport it, then what was the point? So we need to think about how it could actually even get to these places as well. So a few different parts. We take a bit of a top-down view, like big thinking first, and then end of the day, ultimately, if it has a strong sustainability backbone and is very artisanal, that is our approach.
Cool.
Cultural context when you're preparing your space for the Ajman Rulers Code, for example, and things like that. So what's your approach to constructing a space that is culturally contextual, also contemporary in nature?
Look, I don't think it's optional. I think if you are working in New York, please understand the context of New York and deliver something that is New Yorkian. And if you're working in Ajman, please make sure that it is of its place, for its place, from its place. Justin just talked about social sustainability, where you're manufacturing things locally, which is what we did with Ajman. We used a camel tannery in Alain and we got all the camel leather from there. Yes, we love our Italian products, but sometimes we've got to look in our backyard and see what we can make there. So we worked with a joinery workshop in Ajman. Again, touching on Jason's points, giving back. What I don't understand is why it's mutually exclusive. Like, why if something is sustainable, it has to be ugly? Why if something's sustainable, it has to be expensive? It's not mutually exclusive. I think you can have both. You can have something that's culturally contextual and contemporary at the same time. I'll give you a small example. When you go to Starbucks and you buy a coffee, they charge you a little bit more for plant-based milk, right? If you order oat milk or if you order almond milk, there is a surcharge. And just last week, they decided that actually, it's the same price as normal milk. We're not going to charge you a surcharge. We need to, ideal standard as a manufacturer, needs to drop that. If you want to make things that are locally available, specifiable, make them at the same price point that you could get something that is mass produced in Italy, for example. And I think anyone, I was born in the UAE. This is my home. So for me, when I walk into a building over here, I don't want to feel like I'm in Italy. I don't want to feel like I'm in Australia. I want to remember something that is from my memory. I want it to instigate that sense of nostalgia where I'm like, they get it. It's very subtle, and it's not just, it's not just pastiche. It's not, let's put a mashrabiyya pattern. Let's put a little bit of arish and now it's going to become contextual. Oh God, please, we moved beyond that. If you look at Burj Al Arab, which is one of the first architectural statements from this region, it wasn't pastiche. It was this bellowing dhow sail, which is looking out towards the sea. I thought it was a masterstroke. And I was 18 when that was being constructed. And for me, that was it. I was like, oh my God, this architect from, I think he was from America, understood the region, understood it, and he didn't do a pastiche application. He did something that was so poetic. So when I design, I always look at poetry. I know I'm going to sound like I don't look at Pinterest, but I will read Rumi, I will read any contemporary poet, and I'll be like, what can I take from there? That I don't know how to call it, that little a sense, and bring that into my work.
What about you, Roberto? What are your sources of inspiration?
I have to say that one of the things the Italian design is so much loved all over the world is because Italy is a place of contamination. So you have to think, no, I'm not joking. There is a couple of reasons interesting. It's a historical reason. First of all, you have to know that Italy has been the door of the world in Europe for many centuries.
The Renaissance, right?
But it was the end of the Silk Road, for example.
Yeah.
So Venice was the end of the Silk Road.
Yeah.
Italy is a bridge between Africa and North Europe.
Yep.
Italy is a sort of a bridge between East and West. So Italy was colonial with the Roman Empire, was going from London to Africa to East.
Yeah.
So
also the religious capital, right? You have
of
the
course.
Vatican.
Oh,
in
yeah, the
it.
Vatican and so on. So the reason why Italian design is so much flexible in terms of taste is because we always have a little part of DNA of all the world. So the Italian DNA is a sort of a cocktail of all the DNAs and the influence, and we grow up open. So if you go to Venice, you smell the East. If you go to south of Italy, in Sicily, you smell the Arab culture, and so on and so on. On the other side, Italy has been, beauty sometimes comes from a business, okay? And you know why we developed the craft that becomes then design? Thanks to foreigner. Because, I'll explain you. A certain moment in the 19th century, it started the Grand Tour. What was the Grand Tour? The richest people from the families from US, London, UK, Germany, all over the world, they come to Italy for a tour, an Italian tour, Goethe and so on. People was coming to discover the beauty and the romanticism. These people they were going home. And going home, they were taking something for them. So they're taking what they call souvenirs. And in that moment, the craftsmen, they start to compete to create the best souvenirs to bring them home. And they were not the rubbish that we buy today.
Snow globe.
Magnets.
Exactly, no. They were craftsmen, they were producing wonderful, amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. And this stuff, people was working the leather, working the marble, working the glass. Murano was doing the wonderful Murano glasses. The marble was sculpting wonderful statues that sometimes were a reproduction of a Roman statue or
Michelangelo's creations.
or whatever. So these craftsmen grow up because there was a market, because there was foreign people was buying. That's true. And also the old families of Italian family were buying, but the biggest market was made by these people was coming. And so, again, a country that is already in a dialogue with other cultures, so trying to adapt the taste on what these people can be more attracted and so on and so on. And this evolution created a generation of craftsmen that became industrial production, that became the Italian design. So again, there is, in this country is particular because there is always open to the dialogue. And this dialogue, is always open a possibility, and it gives a better DNA and the strongest DNA.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
I think
please.
this is super interesting what you're saying about, the influences of Italian. But do you think the Italians have brainwashed us? Now when we suddenly see a Molteni or a Menotti sofa, we're like, this is ultimate luxury, because you've taken all the influences from everyone. You've created this product which is going to be appeasing to all of us. Do you think you've brainwashed us? Roberto, answer me now.
What do you mean with brainwashing?
Like you've made it so, you've picked up all the influences, you made this perfect product, almost like you've psychologically studied every culture, and you said, this is it. This is the standard of luxury. Do you think you've done that?
I mean, we are in the house of standard.
Yes.
Good product plug.
Yeah, but wait. First of all, I'm not scared by the word standard. Sometimes people think the standard means cheap. This is not true.
No.
It's absolutely the opposite. To reach a standard means to reach a quality that we want to keep. So we want to elevate the standards. So to reach something that you can control and you can replicate. The research we are doing, for example, in sofas, I work for Poltrona Frau.
Yes, you do.
And we have a research in terms of the foam, the comfort, the ergonomics, the material we're using, the quality of the leather, for example. You know that we call it a leather chip. So we have developing leather that is chrome free, fully recyclable, but nobody knows. But we don't care. We knew that. But the touchy, the resistance, and for example, with one of the most famous sofa we designed for Poltrona Frau, we did all the structure in aluminium. So as we started many years
Yes.
ago producing qualities, we arrived to reach a certain level because we tested.
You perfected
Again,
it.
and again, design is a matter of a dialogue.
Yeah.
We are not it's different from architecture. Architecture is a little bit more arrogant. We impose something that is unique. In design, we have to have a production. So we have is an open dialogue because we propose something to someone and he say, okay, I like it or I don't like it. So the failure or the success you had in the past help you to guide the process to make the next step. And going, understanding more from your failures and reinforced by your success, you guide the street where you want to make it more successful, of course.
So you're admitting to it. You made us addicted to
That's the end
persona
point.
from good research and design.
I had the chance to work with some of the best brands in the world.
Yes.
But I know they are some of the best brands in the world because the level of requests of quality that this brand gives to any department, from design to R&D, from the raw material, whatever, is the highest.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I work for Cartel, and the most difficult piece I ever designed is a toothbrush holder.
Oh.
I designed it like 10,000 times, but the quality was not good, and they say, me, I was the first one to say, no, I do it again, until we don't see it. So I don't care about perfection, but it's to say acceptable.
Yes.
Right. Let's move on to talk about technology and how it plays a role in our businesses. Justin, could you tell me about what kind of technology you're exploring? Are you beyond the AutoCAD stuff? In terms of AI, or are you using
Here we are.
anymore? Yes, here we are. It's natural.
Here we are.
Let's address this. Come on, Justin.
Yeah,
Come on, Jess, it's your turn. Go on AI and please say everything.
Hear me now.
You get the short one.
Oh my gosh, I got the short. Yeah, we've taken. In fact, I was talking at an event about a year ago. I distinctly remember this. AI comes up at the end of this big event.
We're not the end, we're in the middle.
No, but this one particular event, and what was interesting is I took a polar opposite view of the rest of the panel that was on the stage. We're very against AI for a lot of reasons. But I'll tell you particularly why. But in the day-to-day business sense, right? Because we're talking the technology question. I mean, there's an email probably in my inbox just last 5 minutes, AI generated. Just people aren't talking to me anymore. It's the computer talking to me. So how many more inquiries can I take in a week or a month or whatever? Standard information, no longer person-to-person business. So there's that level of, in the non-creative part of what AI is doing, it's massively disrupting in a very negative way. I'd like to do business with you, not my machine or my computer doing business with you. It's like the personality's gone, right? So that's it. So there's that, right? And then people are looking to drive business based on AI, all that sort of growth companies. We don't subscribe to that. So firstly, there's the non-creative part, but in the creative part, we sort of see, we sort of take a longer view that we think there's a new value proposition that will come not from AI, actually going the opposite direction of AI. And this is a really strong point that we, as a company, we have a philosophy on this. We think that the future currency in design is actually imperfection. We think it's scarcity. We think it's everything that AI is not. And I'll tell you why, because it's followed other industries like luxury consumer goods for many decades. Very sought after, it's crafted, it's artisanal, it's one-off, it's original. The originality is the thing that's going to have more value than mass production and speed of generation. And we take that as a view of, that's our design process. We don't want to use AI as a tool to do our thinking or early concepting, although it's very powerful, and I accept that some companies get a lot of benefits from that. And I've got no concern about that. But we've just taken a view that the original thought, the original craftedness, the first strike of a pencil on paper is a purest of thought, and it's original. And the example I quoted on that event actually was interesting. So I said, if I was to put 3 words into an AI generating software, and you put 3 words into that same one, the same 3 words, and you did, right? What comes out is an output. But who has the intellectual rights to that? Do I own that? Did I create that design? And then, by the way, if you did the same, do you own that? And then, so we think the greatest conflict in the future with respect to technology is going to be intellectual property rights generated out of AI. We actually think it's very much a grey space. So then the real value that I can sell my client or to our amazing clients is its uniqueness. Original
Not
thought.
generated by AI.
Not. So we think it's EI, it's more of an emotive intelligence. It really just goes back down to what we always did. So it's a here and now conversation, but we see it sort of thinning out.
You've worked with concepts of the metaverse and things like that before. Do you still, I understand there's been changes. Okay.
Oh, I absolutely do. Look, I was kind of like what Roberto was talking about before. You have to experiment with everything, right? I am a maker, I'm a creator, I'm a writer, right? So for me, if there's a new technology, I will never shoot it down. I will play with it. I have to understand
Of course.
what can it do and what can it not do. I think Justin is very beautifully summarized what it cannot do. It will never replace us, right? It will never replace the human touch. It will never replace this. But there are things that it can make much quicker for me. For example, generative AI, we use it quite a bit to create. We were doing a comic strip. I was pitching a concept to a client and I was talking about this is the 8 a.m. to 12 noon journey of someone in the thing. And I was like, I don't want to sit and draw the comic strip of each of the characters. Put photographs of the clients in there. It generated the comic strip for me. Great. What is this? This is gimmick. Brilliant. Some people like to buy into the marketing qualities of it. Am I going to ask AI to do a space plan? Absolutely not, because AI does not understand regulations. It does not understand volume. It does not understand adjacency to spaces. That's still going to be me. But there are clever ways to use it to supplement our tasks. Okay? I have clients sometimes that will come to me and say, can you please give me 10 options? Oh my God, you have hired me, so I will explore 10 options and give you 1 option. But no, this is not good enough, okay, for some clients. So I'll say, yes, I can give you 10 options. I prepare the 1 option I want, plug it into generative AI, it gives me 10 versions of it. Okay, can you make this rustic? Okay, now can you make this a little bit more Italian? Can you make this a little bit more, whatever it is, okay, all these gimmicky words. And it generates those. So that's important for me because I will say to them, look, this is why you should go with my option because you don't want that. So it's almost like a process.
But we don't say this, we can't. It's terrible for you.
I haven't actually done it, but I'm saying that in the process where I could have someone who asks me, I don't work with those clients who ask me for 10 options because they are just negating what I do, right? You do this. But is it going to replace us? I really don't think so. At the end of the day, even when I'm calling the bank, I do not want it. I want to talk to a human. I'm like, can I press 0? Let me talk to a human. So I think there's always a balance, but I would never shoot down any new technology. I like experimenting. I like exploring. I did a lot of work in the metaverse and kaput, it was gone in like 2 years, right? But did I learn something from that? Absolutely. And am I learning from generative AI? Absolutely. I'm learning that I'm always going to be a paper and a pen person is what I'm learning so far.
Roberto, how is your practice changed?
Very simple. My mother-in-law, she was an architect, and she was ashamed because we were using computer to draw, because we were not using the
Drafting
ink.
tools,
Yes. And I said, look, it's just it doesn't change my mind. It's just a more powerful, it's a tool. So unless we use AI as like a tool, why not? But as I say, until I am turning on and turning off AI, and it's not AI turning on and turning off me, this is just a tool. We have to be careful because in the future something could happen. But on the other side, I think that until now we were very focused on the answers. So we get, let's say, an input and we give it an answer. Today we have to start to be also focused on the questions because we have to start to have a dialogue with them. We don't know which kind of level this machine can reach because we have just started. So we have to start to learn how to pose questions to the machine, but we have to be focused on one point. this AI is working with something that is already existing.
It's collective knowledge.
Exactly. So it's something that is already existing. It's not able to generate a new concept. So the concept is done by using old concepts. This is not something that a human can do, but not a machine.
But it's also the average of all concepts that exist.
Of course.
Do we want to be average? Do we want mediocrity? No, we don't.
But it's like Instagram, filters of Instagram.
Yeah, yes.
You know, everybody became immediately
So
photographer. Everybody became like Bruce Weber or Robert Mapplethorpe or whoever. So everybody became a super photographer. Even me, my hound can take a picture with the filter of Instagram. But we generate a sort of a mediocrity, aureas mediocritas, as the Latins say. So you see that I'm cultured too. That makes the illusion of an evolution. The evolution is made by statements, and the statements are made by a geniality of an understanding of something that is not already existing. Otherwise, we keep ourselves, and it seems that they want to create a lever. AI is a lever, and this is a good tool. If you own this lever and you say to the machine, okay, you help me to do this. But if it's the machine telling me what to do, then it's a big problem. But I still see that the human brain is not possible to be substituted until now.
Exactly.
But it is a powerful tool, just a powerful tool. And it's not able, for example, if I want to make a campaign, AI is not able to make a campaign. It's able to invent a campaign about what we don't know. So it's independent and dependent at the same time. So we have to see what will happen. For sure, it's going to be more and more powerful, but we will see.
So Justin, why don't you tell us, in terms of inspiration, of course you're doing a lot of work in Saudi at the moment and things like that. What's your process? What are you looking at now as sources for inspiration? What's your starting point when you're developing something?
I love this question. So we have a manifesto. Firstly, as a company, we believe design mirrors theatre, and the very earliest ideation of that is, if you remember the last time we went to sort of a West End show or a Broadway show, etc. There's something happens inherently that is moving in you as a viewer, as an audience member. And there's 4 elements to us. So the idea as a business, we formulate a script. That's the beginning of our research element. So it's actually really important. We go very deep in what a script is. And scripting for us was a part process that we carried on when I was designing the W Hotel in Abu Dhabi many years ago. It was a W process, if and how process. The ex-Nike guy at the time used that as one of the ideation processes. We apply it to all of our projects. It's also about a time and a place, and end of the day, it sets up, I guess, the elements or the criteria of the project. So in hospitality, we think the script is important. The second part is scenography, and this is a really key part for us. So scenes and scene making, we say we see the world in a very cinematic light. In fact, we do our CGIs in this particular way. We explain how, as a user, as a guest, the pause that will happen because of a moment that we create. AI doesn't know how to do that. Doesn't know how you take a moment to almost to breathe and just to appreciate and to soak something with your eyes, you know? So scene making is important. The momentary glimpse, the sort of a provocative sort of, thought about what's around that corner. Those sorts of things are important in scene making, as is the composition of a space or a volume, as is the distant view, as are many other elements. So we see scenes and scene making really important for us, in the same way as like theatre. And it's all part of the journey that you go on, because spaces do evolve from day to night to day. We also design spaces not just for a moment, but for actually a performance. It's really important that we think about the mood, the feeling. We're designing for a user that feels things differently, and we're all individuals also feeling things differently. Be motivated, inspired, someone just wanting some respite, whatever it be. You can't think of every combination for a user, but you can create the scenes to allow that to be celebrated for those users. So scenes and scenography are important. The third and the fourth are quite easy, because in hospitality, which we specialize in, the actors are really important. The actors for us are the way we're served, the way we're greeted, the personas that we create. So we design these personas. And we've happily shared this with all of our clients, and they love this process because they lean in to the idea that we're thinking almost the operations and the branding of it. We even look at creating beautiful uniform designs with some of our designers that we work with. So some of the most memorable experiences you've ever had have been by the people who have shared and given you that little spoken word about, there's a great little place up there, you should try it, and those little recommendations amplify the interior design of the space so much more. They're the intangible extras. So that's the actors, and then the fourth is the audience. Of course, it's our guest. So there's no great show in the world if there's no audience. So you can appreciate if they're there. So we think about who our guests are. Our guests are really changing fast. They're very international, locally highly educated overseas, to very international travellers, to people are just wanting to move in, as we're getting all older together, having different tastes in our own lives as well. What I used to love at 30, my gosh, in my 50s now, I seek something so much more, and because I'm changing as well. So knowing my guest was different who they were 10, 20 years ago. So that ongoing research is important. So there's 4 elements. Really, it's quite simple. It mirrors theatre, because that's what happens when you get captivated for 2 or 3 hours at a time. You come away feeling something, being moved by the story, and those are the elements which actually happen. So that's what inspires us.
What about you, Roberto? What's your...
Inspires me. As I'm start to have so many things in my head. So I travel the world, met many people, I get many experience. I think what inspires me today are emotions, just simply emotions. What can be a book, can be a movie, can be a friend, can be a smile. I think that I would like that my job start from an emotion. Not just by a need or a briefing or function. I would like to transfer, as I'm able still to feel emotion in me. I would like to find a way to positive emotion, of course, because of course we have not always positive emotions in our life. That it helps to feel better, the positive ones. I would like to share emotion. I think the share is the most important part of our job. If we are not a machine, if we are humans, if we still believe that our job is useful, and we have an emotion to share, that's still a good way to live. And yes, I think that what inspires me is an emotion to share. And it could be, I could translate it in anything, but personally, when I take the pencil, I leave this emotion, I lead myself to belong to this emotion, and I try to just make this emotion go straight to the paper. And then I make the rest.
Let's end with me after all those profound thoughts. Look, for me, it's always everyday moments. I think people chase the muse, they chase like this big idea, it's going to hit them and they're going to run with it. For me, I truly believe that never happens. I think it's just being present in everyday moments. Now when I'm here, I'm 100% here, I'm with you, I'm listening to every word you're saying, and I'm very present in this moment. And when you have a clear mind, especially for a creative, I meditate a lot. When you have a calm and a clear mind, you really appreciate everything that comes in. So today I've got 2 great ideas. Roberto said something about a souvenir, and suddenly in my head I was like, oh my God, how can I create a space that when you go away from that space, you're taking a souvenir from that space, right? So for me, being present and appreciating that everyday conversation, the stuff Justin just said about cinema, I was like, oh, that's so beautiful, poetic, it's very poetic. Those conversations, those moments, I'm seeing how the light is hitting the floor, that shine, for me, that's where inspiration comes from. On a personal level, to keep my meditative, calm state of mind, I spend a lot of time in nature, whether it's trekking, whether it's snorkeling, just being in a state where you're completely one with the universe. For me, that's where inspiration comes from. And it could be like petting my stray cat or slapping my kids around. I don't do that. There's no physical violence in my house.
Please.
But building Lego with my son, it's those little moments that I cherish.
All right, on this beautiful note, we will close the panel. Thank you so much for your time
You're
and this
welcome.
lovely conversation. I'm feeling energized and refreshed, as I hope all of you are. That's all we have for you today.
We are becoming a team, guys.
Yeah.
So we may turn it into a job.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
thank